BMW is bringing out the first ever BMW 2 Series Active Tour. It's a new niche market vehicle to go with a host of other special BMW series models. Product manager Stefan Karsch says BMW isn't trying to cover every niche. BMW thinks the compact and subcompact sectors have the most growth potential over the next few years. With the Active Tour, we hope to attract new customers to the brand. A gondola as transportation to the unveiling? That's part of the Active Tour's image as a car to have adventures in. Journalists seemed impressed by BMW's latest model. Car tester Jens Meiner says the car represents a novelty for BMW. Basically, it's a compact van, a bit longer than 4.3 meters. It's a front-wheel drive, which is something new for BMW, and the motors available are relatively small. There's a 4-cylinder and a 3-cylinder, which is especially economical. The car targets young families as well as older customers for whom the 3 or 5 series is a bit impractical, who want to sit higher up or who want to have more room. We tested the 4-cylinder 110-kilowatt diesel model. Mountain climber Stefan Glowacz says the entire outboard sports community consists of extremely mobile people who take the liberty of going to the mountains every weekend to pursue their hobbies. But it's all a bit contradictory. Of course, outdoor sports enthusiasts want to impact the environment as little as possible. But on the other hand, they get in their cars every weekend and drive out to the countryside. The Active Tour is built with sustainability in mind, and that's attracted to the outdoor sports community. It's just as important as interior space or safety. It's a car drivers can operate with a good conscience. From the side, the Active Tour is a dynamic-looking vehicle. The L-shaped backlights and wide wheels give the 2 Series Active Tour a sporty appearance, despite its height. And the skirting is a real eye-catcher. BMW product manager Frank Niederländer says the car places a premium on comfort. Drivers sit up high, and the car is easy to get into. It's all part of an optimal driver orientation. The interior of the Active Tour is spacious and functional. It's a car for a variety of everyday needs. Frank Niederländer says that BMW tried to maximize space in the back, so it's easy to get into the back seats of the car as well. But the vehicle is also variable. The rear seat can be moved back and forth, which allows for a lot of legroom. You can open the trunk with your foot, and it's easy to fold down the back seats. Car tester Jens Meiner says he thinks that purists will have trouble with the car because it's a front-wheel drive and not a back-wheel drive, as is usual for BMW. Plus, it's not a 6-cylinder, but he also says that the market is very diverse. Some people want more compact cars in the premium sector, and this BMW is different, in terms of its image, from anything else on the market with the possible exception of the Mercedes B-Class. The appointments go well beyond what's usually offered in this segment. Meiner thinks the car will be a success.
Das Ausmaß dessen, was es im Segment gibt, wirklich sprengen. Ich glaube, der Wagen wird Erfolg haben.
The BMW 2 Series Active Tour retails from €27,200 in Germany. The Aldenhofen Testing Center near the western German city of Aachen. Today we're looking at Porsches. Lots of Porsches. 15 variations of the classic 911, 3 mid-engine Boxster Roadsters, and 3 mid-engine Cayman Coupes. We're focusing on driving dynamics. Porsche test driver Eberhard Ambrust explains that driving dynamics means handling, agility, and stability. When the driving dynamics are good, he says, the vehicle responds directly to all the driver's commands. Car tester Klaus Nietzwitz says that top-of-the-line sports cars like Porsche have a long tradition. The 911 has been around since 1963 and the Boxster since 1996. Both vehicles are elite sports cars, but they differ from one another technically. This 911 here is a rear-engine design, while the Boxster is a middle-engine design. That means the cars drive differently, as we'll be testing in Aldenhofen. We take the rear-engine 911 into a steep curve. Klaus says the Porsche 911 is the classic sports car. Its engine has always been in back, then come the gears, and then the driver. That puts a lot of weight on the car's rear axle. The advantage is when the car accelerates, the back wheels don't tend to spin as much with a front or middle engine car. But it also means that when pushed to the limit, the car oversteers. That was a problem in the past 20 or 30 years. In the meantime, Porsches have excellent suspension and electronics, giving them the equilibrium of a middle motor car.
Eine gut funktionierende Elektronik und die Balance ist ähnlich wie bei einem Mittelmotorauto.
The 911 manages this curvy test course without problems. Klaus says that the 911's handling is unbelievably neutral because of the suspension calibration, the electronics, and the all-wheel drive. When you hit the gas, you always have enough traction. The Aldenhofen Testing Center, ATC for short, is part of the Technical University in Aachen, which is known the world round for its automotive prowess. Now we're testing the middle-engine Boxster's braking. Klaus says that people who have never driven a race car should definitely get behind the wheel of a Boxster GTS. It's got 330 horsepower and top suspension, and it handles like a real sports car. The steering is very precise, and the brakes are unbelievably powerful. You can stop the car in a matter of meters without losing control. When you speed up again, the rear of the car swerves out a bit, but it's really easy to control. In designing the GTS models, Porsche engineers tried to make the driving experience even more intense. The Boxster GTS combines race car performance with everyday sportiness. Klaus says that if you take a closer look at the Porsche Boxster, you see it's a more modern sports car than the 911. Here the motor is mounted directly behind the driver, and then comes the transmission. The same principle is used in Formula One cars, and they're pretty fast, of course. The weight is concentrated in the middle of the car. This means the car is very balanced in terms of weight, and that's comfortable for the driver when the car is pushed to the limit.
Und damit fühlt sich ein Fahrer im Grenzbereich richtig wohl.
The most spectacular Porsche is the 918 Spyder with its multiple motors. This hybrid sports car is powered by a 4.6-liter conventional gasoline rear-wheel drive motor. In addition, there are 2 electric motors, one driving the front axle. It's a new variation on all-wheel drive that has the same sort of efficiency. Ambrust tells us that the all-wheel drive improves traction and increases speed on the straightaways. It also makes the car more stable in poor conditions. On the test driving circuit, we push the various models to the limit in a way that's impossible in regular traffic. And all of them retain their excellent handling, even at top speeds. That's a mark of Porsche excellence in research and design. Citroën is introducing the next generation of the C1. Since it was introduced in 2005, the French carmaker has sold 780,000 C1s. The new version of the city runabout has a redesigned front end and is available in 3- and 5-door versions. Low weight and the latest gasoline motor technology mean that the C1 uses 3.8 liters of fuel per 100 kilometers. This autumn sees the revised version of the Ford Focus hit the streets. The front end looks more luxurious than its predecessor, and the grille is reminiscent of the top-end model, the Focus ST. The new Focus comes in 3 diesel and 3 conventional gasoline models, all of which promise energy efficiency. The interiors feature higher quality materials and a touchscreen instead of a lot of buttons. The basic Focus retails from 16,450 euros in Germany. As our car tester Ines Petri tells us, every 3 years Volvo holds the Ocean Race, a spectacular sailing regatta circumnavigating the globe. This October is the next start. Volvo is marking the occasion by launching a special Ocean Race edition for various existing Volvo models. The design takes up the motifs of wind, waves, and water. Today, we'll look at the XC60 in the Ocean Race design. So how does a maritime exterior fit a SUV designed for rough ground? The XC60 may not be as sleek as a sailboat, but both are fairly robust. On the 9 stages of the 39,000-mile regatta, the 6 sailing teams dock in 12 cities. Between these destinations lie some of the world's most demanding seas, the aquatic equivalent of off-road terrain. The Ocean Race design for cars builds on Volvo's most basic equipment package, Kinetic, refining it with its own touches, like orange seams on the footmats and leather seats. The special edition costs an additional 3,200 euros, but it means added comfort, like heated seats and an infotainment system. The central console is subtly decorated with the names of the cities that the sailing teams head for on the 9-month ocean race. The rear luggage cover not only screens baggage from view, it also presents the regatta route on a map of the world. By the way, the race ends in Volvo's hometown Göteborg in June 2015. One thing the XC60 has in common with a sailboat is plenty of room for provisions, so the XC60 can set off well prepared for a long voyage. Ines says that along with all the little details of the Ocean Race design interior, the XC60's panorama glass roof can be opened to let in a bit of sea breeze, or mountain breeze for that matter. The most conspicuous aspect of the exterior is this exclusive shade of blue. Silver, mother of pearl, and metallic black are also available. These light metal wheel rims are also available exclusively with the Ocean Race design. The engine has power too. 350 Newton meters of torque ensures speed in headwind or tailwind. Ines now wants to see whether her Ocean Race XC60 test car lives up to the race part. It has a T5 engine with 180 kilowatts. The transmission is an 8-gear automatic. It shifts so promptly that you always have optimal power. The 8-gear automatic can be put into S mode, so the gears shift even more quickly and respond even more directly to the gas pedal. Gear shift paddles on the steering wheel enable the driver to shift manually. On blacktop, the XC60 launches from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 7.2 seconds. The car's top speed is 210 kilometers an hour, and it consumes only 6.7 liters of fuel per 100 kilometers. Of course, it helps if a good tailwind's in your sails. Our car tester Ina says the interplay of all the little design details gives the Ocean Race Edition its special charm. She especially likes the blue color, which takes up the ocean motif perfectly, along with the world map on the luggage cover for a whiff of adventure. Lexus has launched a compact class hybrid, a revised CT200H. It offers individuality, luxury, technology, and low fuel consumption. Lexus says the 100 kilowatt engine burns 3.8 liters of super per 100 kilometers, but that figure can vary greatly depending on the stretch driven. Our car tester Matas Kurat says the hybrid CT200H's advantages are especially apparent in the city and at low speeds. That's when it shifts to the electric engine, using no gasoline at all. But if you drive on a rural road at a faster speed, then fuel consumption rises, so that you now have an average rate of 6.1 per 100 kilometers. That's still pretty low for a gasoline engine, but there are diesel models in this segment that undercut it. So much for the engine. In the interior, the driver faces an array of technology. Mata says operating the infotainment system with his joysticks takes some getting used to, but once you're accustomed to it, it works quite well. The car also has voice recognition, and we'll try that out now. The GPS system's voice says the driver should name an abbreviation menu after the tone, and that he can get assistance by saying help. Mata says enter a destination. The GPS repeats the command, and then asks for the name of a city. It explains at length how you can alter the country name and begin a new search. Matas breaks off the conversation. He doesn't have the patience for the system's long-windedness, though he concedes it may be helpful for someone not used to talking with a machine about operations he doesn't understand. This way, he'll learn all his options. The interior of the Lexus is luxurious. The finest materials, comfortable seats, and an instrument cluster that changes its gauges to fit the driving mode. But the central console is initially confusing. Once again, things take getting used to, says Matas. Everything has been kept relatively simple, but all the technology means lots of buttons. Matas thinks the control knobs for the seat heating are a bit odd. He's never seen them in another car. But once you accustom yourself to them, as with the infotainment system, they're okay. The Lexus differs not only internally, but externally from other European car makers' compact offerings. Lexus designed the CT200H specifically for the European market. Matas says the CT200H is very attractive for those who love technology, but the compact segment is very competitive in Europe. And how many people are this fascinated with technology? High quality and workmanship is also a criterion, and many of Lexus's European competitors are just as good or even better. And so our car tester wonders whether the CT200H will prevail on the market over the long haul. The CT200H's high starting price of €27,600 will make it hard for Lexus to grab market shares from VW Golf and the others in this class. But for a compact hybrid, the price is decent, and the selection of compact hybrids is still very limited in Europe. Someone looking for one could soon find himself getting into the Lexus. If there's an epitome of the classic car, then it's this two-seater. Together with the Chevrolet Corvette, the 1955 Ford Thunderbird is the American sports car. Manuela Feicht is a fan of classic American automobiles, and especially her 55 T-Bird. She loves the way it looks, but she also appreciates its performance. The first-generation T-Birds had 200 horsepower. By comparison, Porsches, built at the time, only had 70. Manuela says she's fascinated by the V8 American cars of the 1950s because they have a lot of displacement and power. That gives them their typical blub-blub engine sound.
Schönes Blubbern, Brabbeln, das hat was.
Her interest in automobiles is no coincidence. Her father was a car dealer. She grew up on chrome and oil and discovered her passion for cars at an early age. Manuela tells us that even as a little girl, she played with the mechanics and the cars. Her father taught her how to drive, off-road of course, as soon as her legs were long enough to reach the pedals. She's always been a car enthusiast. She was born with gasoline in her blood. The T-Bird was a hit from the moment it appeared in showrooms. Marilyn Monroe rode through the United States in the sports car on her honeymoon. The model remains the most coveted because of its purest design. As of 1958, the T-Bird became a four-seater and lost much of its charm. Even in goldenrod yellow, the car doesn't look overly ostentatious. That's part of its appeal. Manuela tells us that people wave and applaud when she drives by. Vintage cars, she says, put people in a good mood. They like a bright yellow vintage car with lots of chrome that sounds good. She says she's never experienced anything negative in her Thunderbird. The 1955 T-Bird was surprisingly affordable. Aficionados call it the early bird and say it's the loveliest of the 11 generations of the model. Its size is modest for a U.S. car of its era, and it fits in a standard European garage. People began collecting T-Birds over 30 years ago, and fans have always been able to get spare parts. If its mileage weren't so poor, 20 liters per 100 kilometers, the Roadster could still be considered a relatively practical everyday car. Its technology is simple and reliable. Manuela is even able to do some of the repair work herself. She tells us how she's fixed her car. She photographed the motor and then enlarged the print. One day, when the engine wouldn't run, she compared it with the photo and identified what was wrong. She then repaired the motor. The T-Bird packs a muscular V8 engine under the hood. Competing models from the time, like the Jaguar XK140, only had 6-cylinder motors. With 4.8 liters of displacement, the engine delivered around 200 horsepower to the Ford-O-Matic 3-speed automatic transmission. Other cars have since bested the T-Bird's performance, but none have ever matched its sound. First-generation T-Birds are growing rare. The technology was robust, but the exterior was prone to rust, and not all of them were driven only in good weather. A decently preserved early bird is worth around €45,000.